I know what you're thinking. What in the gosh darn is Bits and Bombs? Bits and Bombs is a podcast deep diving into what it takes to do stand-up from a different comedian every episode. Follow new open micer Peter Doms in his journey to be an okay comic.
Hi guys, so I had some issues with the video on this episode, so there's no actually, it's still on YouTube, but there is no video side to it, I guess, which is funny because I mentioned at the start of it how the lighting's still shit, so now there's no lighting. And also another thing as well to keep in mind is just a content warning, as we do discuss some heavy topics such as sexual assault and domestic violence. And yeah, so keep that one in mind.
World's dodgiest brothel, and I knew it was the world's dodgiest brothel because I worked there, and the manager also sold ice, and so that also gave it away. And the guy that ran the brothel, he'd always call me Western girl. He'd always call me Western girl. He'd say, "You're the Western girl. You're my Western girl." And he'd always say to the clients when they came in, "You have to pay more for the Western girl," And I think that proves, right, that even at the very, very fucking bottom, there's still a tiny bit of white privilege.
Okay, so there's been a bit of controversy recently. So I've done 3 episodes of this so far, and of course, like in the 3rd episode is when I started getting messages about the lighting being kind of shit. So I've decided to take that feedback and completely ignore it. for now.
The lighting will stay shit. Okay.
Yeah.
It looks good to me, but I don't understand.
Yeah. Tell the listen. No. I'll fix the lighting. It's just expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And you don't have any money?
No.
How much money do you have right now in your bank account?
Yeah. About $3 or $4. What about yourself?
I have $500.
$500. That's a bit more than me, actually. That's pretty good. Maybe you should buy me the lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
right.
that's pretty good. Actually, yeah. I actually should have more because I got paid like a couple of days ago. But I spend all my money like really quickly. Always been really bad with it.
Anyway, so Sian Smyth, thanks for coming on.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
So Sian, when was your first gig?
My first gig was, I think it was in 2014.
Yeah.
Or 2013? Oh, when would it have been? I don't know. No, it would have been the year. Yeah, so it would have been in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Was my first gig. And I actually fucking hates, I was like 19, I didn't know anything about comedy really. I didn't know anything about anything, but I wanted to be an actress, which I'm ashamed to say. Ashamed.
So that dream's no longer?
Oh. No, it's not. Well, I fantasy that's for Sian's quiet time to think about that bullshit. But I'm well aware that acting is not a real art form. I'm joking. But yeah, I just wanted to be an actress. Well, I knew I wanted to do something. I went to art school and all that sort of shit. So I was like, I want to be an actress. And then I kind of left drama school and I was like, so is being an actor just not doing anything? I was like, I'm not doing anything. So I just started doing stand up. And that was why I went to stand up. And my first gig was at this tap gallery, and I literally went in there and talked to the promoter face to face, as if you're doing how if you go in for a job back in the day, they'd be go in and introduce yourself to the boss. So I went in and introduced myself to this lady who ran a place called the Tap Gallery, and she was doing a all female gay comedy night or whatever, and she booked me for it, and I actually got paid. Yeah, I got paid for my first ever gig, and I got paid $50, I think, and I remember my mum framed it, and I was like, oh, I guess this is just what comedy is. I guess I'm just gonna get paid every time. And then I went to a gig a week after that, and I was like just standing around like waiting to be paid, and I was like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna get paid again. And I didn't get paid again. I didn't get paid again for possibly 7 years.
It's so funny because I have like a lot of friends back home, or even just that aren't in the scene. They're like, oh, so how much money do you? I'm like, you're fighting to get free spots.
Yeah.
Everyone's just trying to wants to get onto just anything they can. Like, yeah, so it's pretty fun. It's pretty crazy that your first gig was paid, but it would have set like a weird
it was just
standard
for
you.
It's so funny. I just find that so funny, and then I just didn't get paid again for like
You could have quit and been like, I was a paid comic for a bit.
I know, right? I know. It was but it was good. So yeah, that was my first gig, and I remember I thought it went sick. I did a fucking I did a fucking NIDA course for stand-up comedy.
NIDA do stand-up
NIDA did a stand-up comedy course, and I am ashamed to say I actually did the course at NIDA. I don't know who the fuck the teacher was. I don't know him now, so he's definitely like not anyone. And he wrote like our sets for us, and he wrote me a set, and some of the jokes that were written in the set were like stolen.
Oh.
But I didn't understand like how comedy worked or anything.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be an actress. I was just one of those like annoying bitches, and like and then I like and then I started doing these jokes, and then like the comedians were like, those are stolen jokes, and I was like, oh, okay.
I saw it on Facebook yesterday.
Yeah, so all that kind of shit. But yeah, that was my first gig. Was Tap Gallery, and then
What type of venue was Tap Gallery?
it was an art gallery.
An art gallery. Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Sydney.
What type of crowd would that have? That would have been like a fairly like hoity-toity.
Oh, I can't even remember, man.
Yeah.
No, I think they were all like artsy, just like. And I remember like there was a lady there at my first gig, and she was like this fat, like crazy, like artist person. Like it was kind of like an art, like just like where places where painters and poets and all that kind of like hang out. And I remember she came up to me and she was like all like fucked up, and she just went, "Stand on your man." And I remember always thinking of that, stand on your man instead of stand by your man. I remember thinking about that a fair bit. No, for stand on your man. But yeah, that was the first gig. And then shortly after that was quite like a revolution in comedy, probably like in Australia, but definitely in Sydney. This guy, Daniel Muggleton, who's like doing really well, started an open mic called Mug and Kettle. Like literally like the year I started, which was really lucky. He started this open mic called Mug and Kettle, which literally started open mic comedy in Sydney. Like this open mic. And it started, and they'd have like 80 acts on some nights, like fucking ridiculous numbers, but it was fucking, and it was like, I mean, it was really popular, and we all kind of like hung out there in my like first few years of doing comedy. Yeah.
So, but surely, so you say it started the open mic scene in
this
Sydney,
Daniel
like
Muggleton
10
guy and
years
Samuel
ago.
Kettler. Yeah.
Really? I thought there would have been like a bustling scene for like the last 20, 30
Oh, there was a
years.
scene, but it wasn't
Like,
like
not
open mic stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so that would have started in like 2013, and then the rest is history. Just more and more stuff started opening up after that, and then club shows and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's really revolutionized in the last like 10 years that I've been doing comedy.
Yeah.
It's like kind of a really good time. Maybe not a good time to get paid work, because like back in the day in Australia when there was no industry, because there used to be no industry, so that's why the older comics that you see that are kind of like notable in Australia, like they're not always that great or like whatever, but like comedy had just, so back in like the 90s or the 80s or this whatever, there was no comedy industry. There was nothing.
Yeah, wow.
So if you did comedy, you would make money, and you'd be on TV in like your first year. So people were literally becoming comedians to make money.
Yeah, like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like everyone got paid. So like you just get paid for gigs and shit all the time, because there was no industry, and there was nothing to like compare it to, and it was like really new in Australia. And now the industry is like actually starting to like get somewhere, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why your first, because you would have been like right before the open mic scene like started.
Well, it had just started.
Oh,
The
he'd just
open mic had
started.
just
I guess
started,
that would have been like you getting paid would have been like a byproduct of like the old kind of side of comedy.
Possibly. I think that was just like a crazy coincidence, really. But yeah, there was for a very long time. There was just like no industry in Australia, so that's. And yeah, you could get on TV in your first week, in your first year and shit, and like wasn't that big a deal and stuff.
So you're from Sydney. You did you're in the Sydney comedy scene for quite some time, and now you're in Brisbane. How does the Sydney scene compare to Brisbane? Like I've heard there's heaps of like open mics, and like is there a lot of spots? Too?
Oh yeah, I think there's lots of open mics. There's heaps of open mics in Sydney, and I think it's just getting back. Like they're just getting back on board. But there's heaps. It's not always going to be people there, but there's heaps, and they'll be hard, or they'll just be comedians there, or whatever else. But all that sort of shit is good at the end of the day, you know. Yeah, like I think the Sydney scene, like I heard, like I don't know. There's definitely like less gigs in Brisbane, but I've really enjoyed my last year working in Brisbane, in this and the way the scene works here. But it's probably like the same anyway, anywhere you go, you know, in Australia. But yeah, there's I don't know, just. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess like from your first gig and then starting like going to your second gig doing the open mics, like how did that feel, I guess? Were you like, do you think you were performing as well?
When I was doing, yeah. Well, no, I love doing open mics. I remember, there was probably a time where I stopped kind of doing comedy for like a bit. Mm-hmm. Like I just didn't really like understand, I just didn't understand. I did not like understand like what comedy was. I didn't understand. I liked Judith Lucy. Like I still like Judith Lucy, but like that was who I was into. Like my comedy is nowhere near like whatever that is, you know? And yeah, so like yeah, I kind of just like had no idea what comedy was or anything. Like I never really listened in that course anyway, so I didn't really understand anything. I just kind of just kept going to open mics because I wanted to be on stage.
Yeah.
And then I just started like thinking about like how grateful I was to have like 5 minutes to be creative every night, and how rare that is. Like that is so rare. Like who the fuck gets 5 minutes even one night a week to fucking just like be creative, you know? So then I just started seeing open mics for like a number of years as like a place where I was really grateful to be, because it was 5 minutes where I could be in my body and be creative and say what I wanted to, and like, you know, just not even say what I wanted to say, just be in my body and be creative for those 5 minutes, and like what a joy that is. And so I just kind of like did that for a while, and then as I started like doing like comedy more and more, I started to like get a more sophisticated taste in like who I liked as like a comedian, and who like I enjoyed like listening to, but I wasn't influenced before I started.
So you weren't really like into comedy before you like would get, so
I wanted to be an actress.
At what point did the passion change from like wanting to get into acting and like being passionate about movies in that way, and then being like, okay, comedy is my thing? Like because I just got like really, well, then I got Raw, and then I just started going well and stuff, and like being like, hey, I'm not too bad at this, and now this is where all my friends are, and I have a real emotional connection to it as well. Yeah,
very much so. A very much emotional and like spiritual connection to it as well. Like it's very much given me like a lot of like, and like I do see it as a business very much so, and I think it's mindful not to get too like spiritual about it, but it's important to still be spiritual about it for me anyway, because it's just like got me through so much in my life. Like when things have been shitty and like all that kind of thing. Yeah, it's just over time I've got I've developed a really like emotional and spiritual connection, like with the craft and stuff.
Yeah. So with the spiritual connection, what do you mean by that exactly? Like, is it I think I've heard you say before, like things like being like aggressively patient and stuff like that. Is that what you mean? Like kind of your...
No. Oh, when I say like a spiritual connection, no, that's like a like, I don't know, like a gratefulness and like a
like showing gratitude,
like a gratitude and like a real honor for it and how much it's got me through. Like, you know, like when I was like fucking like depressed and like fucked up, like, cause like when I went through DV, which like you know about, and like, I don't know if other listeners would know about that, but anyone who like knows me and listening to this would know, like when I went through DV, cause I was in a DV relationship for the whole of my comedy career.
Yeah.
The entire I met him at my second ever gig. Like, so, you know, yeah. So, and I have a real gratitude for how much it helped me as well during that time. Like, get through that, like being able to do stand up about DV and about what I was experiencing at the time, and how much I feel that helped me like in healing from that trauma and stuff. So that's the spiritual connection. And also just like, it's really hard to explain like a spiritual connection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I watch stand-up sets now and like, you know, and I'll probably feel different about comedy in like another 10 years, you know what I mean? But this is where I am right now with it. It's like, I'm at like this spiritual emotional point where I'll like kind of like watch a set and I'll kind of like cry because of like certain things that I see like that they did in that set that were very like beautiful and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
you're appreciating the craft.
Yeah.
And you can kind
and
of
just
see...
like really like, yeah, it's just like, it's like, yeah, it's just like a deep kind of like gratitude and appreciation for like what that person is doing right now. Yeah. Like, for example, like there's this set where it's Mums Mabley, who was this female black lesbian comedian in like fucking like the 40s or something, like fucking years ago. And she was the first like woman comedian to do like Carnegie Hall. And there's her doing a set. And I kind of like, when I first started, when I first clicked on it, I clicked on it because I was like, oh, let's just go see some like gay comedy from the 40s. Let's see like how fucking lame it is, you know, like just fucking being like so ungrateful. And anyway, so then anyway, but I clicked on it, I looked at her set, and it was just like, I just started crying because like it's such a historical moment in like stand up is watching Mums Mabley do Carnegie Hall as a black lesbian female comedian. And not only that, so the historical significance of that happening, but also like when you see her say, it's so sweet, it's so fucking sweet, and it's so, you see the blueprint of what stand up is today. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, but it's all observational, but she's observing things for that, like, you know, we don't know anything about now. And she's got like a comedy song, and it's just like, yeah. So when I explain a spiritual connection, it's like when I watched Mums Mabley and just like couldn't stop crying because of like the beauty and significance of that. And I guess that's only something that like your spiritual connection is something that develops over time. Yeah. Yeah, cool. And I'll probably lose in like a few years when I become like whatever. Yeah, but it's also like got me through a lot. It's got me like I can just like, it's like, it helps me like work shit out like in my life. I can just kind of like if I just like do stand up about it, I can kind of like have more clear an idea of what's going with what's happening for me as well. So
do you mean like, is that like in the writing process?
Yeah, like
just writing it out.
Yeah, like I remember when I did like that DV show. Yeah. Which I wrote in the DV Refuge, which I like to talk about because I think it's very beautiful that a comedy show was written in a DV Refuge. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's so wild. And just makes like there's this anyway, but as I was writing that, I remember when I first started writing that, I was like, I'm going to write this in a way that will stick up for him. Because that's what I want to stick up for him, and I want people to understand that men who hit women are actually just like misunderstood. So that's what this show is going to be about. It's going to be about how violent men are misunderstood. And then as I started like writing out the show, I was like, wait a second. This guy's a cunt. This guy is an absolute fucking cunt. And as I started like working it all out, I actually started to like work it out more too. Yeah. As well. And then it got to like the last, like me do it. And I remember like when I was first doing stand up about DV, I'd like finish every set and be like, fucking, I don't believe in cancel culture. You don't have to love him. Please just like love everyone, even though like they don't know who I'm talking about. But like I was just like in like a fucking frazzled mind. And yeah. So like, yeah, it's also like has helped me like work shit out like that. And wait, what were we gonna say? Sorry, I lost track. We're both too ADD.
Yeah, this is a bad combo.
This is an ADD pod. Yeah, I know. And I keep going to like change the subject as well. So I'm sorry if this is hard for you to edit or whatever.
Oh no, not at all. I think we were talking about just like the spiritual connection, but also how writing like lets you look at things in like a retrospect.
Yeah, but I don't write like that.
Yeah. What is so you say you don't write, like you don't sit down and just start writing, like what is your writing process?
I'll write like one word on like a page and then I'll just have like an idea.
Yeah
So
you'll write like the kind of like the bullet point or bullet points and be like, okay, these are the beats I want to like
and
hit.
then just like riff and then just like call a comic made up and just be like, yo, what do you think of this bit?
Cool.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do. Yeah. And then bits will just come to me kind of thing. Like I remember bits were just like screaming at me when I was in the DV refuge, thinking like they were just screaming at me. And I remember my friend being like, oh, I don't think you can do stand-up about it like quite yet. And I was like, but all my jokes are related to TV. I can only think of TV related material. I'm going to have to do a TV show. You know what I mean? But I don't really have any kind of process or anything like that personally.
And I guess like a lot of your stuff is anecdotal and stories, so that's like not necessarily something you need to like write word for word because like it's an experience that happened to
Some
you.
people write that way. Some people like get up every day and like will write for like a couple of hours, and maybe I should try that. But right now I haven't done that so far, and
okay,
I'll do that. Yeah.
So,
but I should probably start doing that. Like now things are like getting like more professional. You know what I mean? So I'm like, should I start doing that? It's like, but I've never done that. So I don't know. I don't know.
So we're talking about like your early gigs in Sydney and stuff. And then, so I guess what you made it to what was your experience with Raw? Like, and whenabouts was that along the line? Was that like kind of the next big thing for you? So starting out and then Raw, or was there like Raw kind of other milestones before that?
Well, people just started telling me I was good, which was
that
cool.
always helps.
Yeah, people just being like, "Oh, you're good." At first, I was shit. People were like, "This bitch, who the fuck is this stupid dumb bitch?" You know. So for like a few years, I like experienced like a lot of like social rejection, I guess, within like comedians and stuff, which I think is like good for people.
Do you think it's good for people because it makes them work towards something? Yeah.
Makes you appreciate it when you get it.
Yeah, I think it's like you can definitely tell when people are like, "Oh, good set, man," and it's like just like it's basically just a greeting or whatever. But like when people are like, that was written, they tell you like what they like, that's when you feel like you've actually like earned the compliment. Because everything else just feels like, I was just like,
you guys doubted me though. You guys didn't think that I was gonna say, no one's thinking about anyone though at the end of the day. But yeah, what were we saying?
About just like, so your first few gigs and then like what the next milestone.
I just did that and then I got Raw, and I lost Raw, but man, everyone gets like way too emotional. Like Raw, like just doesn't, like it matters, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but
unless you understand like what it is and have like a clear direction of where you want to go after that.
Yeah,
I didn't have that. Like I was kind of just like, oh, now I'm in Raw.
Yeah,
how exciting! I'm in Raw. Yeah. I am very good at comedy, I guess. Like,
yeah,
but
you say
that was just is what it is. That and like I kind of like had the jealousy of like my partner who I was with at the time, so I was like kind of dealing with the stress of that. But like I had a big like almighty breakdown after I lost, like any comedian does, and and Then I did Tonightly, which was cool. Like I got to go on that Tonightly show that was on ABC for a while. That was really cool. And yeah, and then I just kind of like, doesn't mean, like, you just kind of like got to just like keep working and like putting out content, and it's hard when I'm like a bit spatty and like don't really understand that stuff, but like now I'm starting to like get it. It kind of like all comes together slowly over time if you just commit.
Yeah. So
and sometimes it comes to people faster and sometimes it comes slower, you know, because some people, like I have a learning disability, so like I will, like it's going to take me longer than most people to like work it out, but I'll probably like work it out eventually.
Yeah, I think it's important to like that everyone has their own journey. So like some people will make it to TV or whatever in like their first 2 years, and then someone it might take 10 years. So I think it's like cool that everyone's doing their own different kind of journey, and we all kind of develop at different times. And you said that you lost Raw, but that's still such a big achievement to like be representing New South Wales. Like at Raw, like didn't you find that like an achievement in itself?
I wish I just enjoyed it and had gratitude and had like the spiritual connection I have with it now, and didn't just see it as like some competitive thing.
Yeah, I guess for me it's just like, because I haven't got that far, I'm just like, just to be on TV would be cool. But then it's like, it is still a competition. So when you get to the finals, there's still the next step I want to win.
I was an ungrateful cunt at that point, you know. So I just was like, this is cool. I hope I win against this fucking fat bitch from Tasmania or whatever. Like, you know, like that's just like what you're thinking, you know. So like, yeah. Like I wish I kind of like understood the industry a bit more before that happened. No, there's no point in wishing anything. Like everything's kind of will go well or then it won't go well, I guess. I think that's what is kind of is the industry.
Yep.
It's like you'll get hype and then you won't have hype, and then you'll have hype and then you won't have it, and then you'll have it and then you won't have it.
Yeah.
And it's just
fluctuating.
So I guess that's why it's good to have a spiritual connection with the craft as well, because then you can still get something even if like you're not achieving anything.
So after Raw, like you also mentioned that you're on an ABC show. Like how far after? Like what was
Raw? I got that like 3 months after Raw.
3 months after Raw, yeah.
Yeah, so that was really good. I wouldn't have gotten that without Raw, which is good. And they're also like filling a diversity thing. Like they wanted girl comics as well. So, and then. Yeah, and then I started headlining after Raw, which was good, but I like didn't really have like enough material at the time to like headline with. But I was like getting headline spots, which was exciting, and like MC spots, and then after that in 2020, that's would have been when COVID came, right?
Yes, yeah. Yeah,
and then COVID came, and then all the gigs were cancelled, and then I went through DV like shortly after that. Well, I left a DV situation. I was going through DV the whole time, which I'm also really proud of myself for. Like when I think about my journey in comedy, I'm like, and I look back at those jokes that I wrote when I was living with a violent man, and like how good I got over those years. And when I think about that, I'm like, fuck yeah, bitch, you fucking like were able to write such good jokes when fucking living in such stressful like circumstances, like having like a man that beats you and shit. Like I really admire that girl. And anyway, what were we saying? Sorry, I lost track.
Yeah.
And then I just yes, and then COVID happened. So then I was getting like headline like random MC spots. Then COVID happened. Then it like kind of came back for a bit. Then I went through DV, and then I got like really unwell after that. So I've just been like recovering from that for 2 years. And yeah, moved to Brisbane, stopped using drugs, and yeah, and then recently like this Doug Stanhope stuff has like I got to open for Doug, which was like a goal. That wasn't my goal when I started comedy because I didn't know who Doug was. Yeah. But when I started getting an appreciation for comedy and that connection, I started loving Doug. Yeah. Fucking adoring him. And then I wanted to open for him. Like I did want to open for him probably back in like 2019. Yeah. I was like, oh fuck, it'd be mad to open for Doug when he comes to Australia. And then I did and then it was half the reason I got clean, actually, because I remember being like, I'm not going to be able to like open for Doug Stanhope if I'm not clean. Like, so yeah, and then I got I thought I'd just open for him. Like, I didn't expect everything else that happened after. If you want to explain, should you explain or should I? I'm not sure.
What happened after you opening and stuff?
Well, just like doing his podcast.
Yeah, go into that for sure. Yeah.
Or like if you want to ask questions or whatever. Yeah.
Well,
just like, yeah, and then just and all the calling out like on Twitter and stuff.
Yeah. So I guess like for the listeners, like who is Doug Stanhope and like who is Doug Stanhope to you, I guess?
So Doug Stanhope is like, well, first off, like his writing style is like very unique, and there's no one else who has like a real writing style like that. Yeah. Which I find it really interesting to watch. But also, what I like about Doug Stanhope is he was the first guy to go out of festivals and out of the corporate comedy empire because he hated it. Yeah. And he was a libertarian, and he was the first guy to just kind of like go out and rent out pubs and do hour shows, and he developed his audience that way.
Oh, so he broke outside of the
by not doing festivals. So now, and he still doesn't do festivals.
Yeah, well, that's
cool.
And
not doing like corporate comedy shit, like just doing like his own shit, and he was kind of like the first person to do that. So that's what he meant to me. And also his set about how he assisted his mum in suicide is like one of the most beautiful sets I've ever seen in my life. And that was another set that like drew me to tears because I just like couldn't, like, it was just so funny and so tragic and just like so beautifully written, so beautifully performed, so much like, it's an incredible set. Like, people should watch that set. Yeah. I'll send you the link so maybe you could even like, because it's just it's just an incredible set, man. And it's that it's in his show Beer Hall Putsch, and so, and I saw that, and that just like changed the way that I understood comedy as well. I was like, oh, you can like talk about real shit, fucking real shit, you know? And so yeah, that's why it was a real honor to open for him. Yeah.
So with the when did you find out about that were getting this opportunity to open for him? Like, was it before? Did you already know he was coming to Australia, or were you announced as an opener like as the tour was getting lined up?
There was kind of like people were saying, oh, I think like, well, maybe, and then like, and then I just my friend just told me actually. Yeah, my friend just was like, oh yeah, you're opening for him. Yeah. Yeah.
So how did your friend? Like, did your friend have
because my friend knew his manager when he comes to Australia.
Yeah, wow. That's really cool.
And now I'm friends with Doug's manager when he comes to Australia. He's lovely, yeah.
Yeah, that's sick. So you got to open for Doug, but so you got to open for the Brisbane show, correct? Yeah. So before you did the Brisbane show, you were in Sydney
But Doug's Australian manager came to see Western Girl that I did at Good Chat as well. But he was just filming it and
was he
editing it together? Yeah.
Okay, cool.
He saw me in that, which was also like a good move as well for him to see that.
Yeah. So with the night before the Brisbane, or a night or two, so before you opened for Doug in Brisbane, you were in Sydney and did a podcast with him, correct?
No, we were in Brisbane.
And so that was done in Brisbane.
No, yeah.
For some reason I thought it was Sydney.
No, yeah, and we did a podcast together. Yep.
Yeah, cool. And how that would have been like?
Oh, that was
just
that was so beautiful, man. That was like the best night of my life. That was just like, oh, man, like it's like lost its like gravity that it once had, like on me emotionally. But yeah, that was so fucking crazy. Like, especially because I was there with like Ben Elwood, Eric Hutton, Shane Hunter, which are all like my fucking really good mates from comedy over like 10 years, you know? And we all love like Doug Stanhope, you know? Like, we all love him. And we all love each other as well. You know, so it was nice to watch that. It was nice to do it with a bunch of people who I loved, and we all wanted like what was best for each other as well. So it just couldn't have been a better of a night, because I was there with like all the people I love who all love Doug, doing what I love, which is comedy, talking about what I love, which is comedy, and also just like general life shit. And then also like being like with this guy who like I really like enjoyed his work, and I was able to be like, bro, like that set you did about your mom, like it really like came to me at like some really dark, like emotional times like in my life. And I was able to like say that to him like privately, like just like into his eyes when everyone else was like talking. It was sweet to have that moment, because we spent like 7 hours with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool. And he just and I was just like really mindful, like I want to be funny, but I was with a bunch of people that like made me feel comfortable, so like I was able to be like funny and like myself. And like it was lovely, because like when I came in, like Ben was like, this is Sian, you're gonna fucking love her, she's fucking like, you know what I mean? So it was just like a beautiful night, like all round, with like no competitiveness, and everyone just being so unbelievably like grateful and happy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like a bunch of people who have like a spiritual connection with comedy.
I think it's just a great story as a friend, like a friend group too, to be like we're hanging out with the guy, like our favorite comic kind of thing. Like, that's fucking,
who I have like a genuine appreciation for, you know, like a genuine.
And I, the first time I even heard of him was through you.
Yeah.
So like that's how I found some of his stuff, and then then from there, so that podcast was pretty crazy. It was great. And then, so doing the show, like, how was opening for Doug?
That was, I started crying. Like, it was before I brought him on. I was like, oh, you would have been there. You were there. You were there.
So that's what I was gonna say.
Do you remember me? Didn't I say I'm getting emotional?
So I'm gonna be honest. I fucking started tearing up when you were on. Like, legit. I was like, because for me it was like one of those moments where I knew how much it meant to you, like it's your favorite comic, and it was such. I knew I was just watching like a very like just big moment for you. I was just like,
that's cute.
It's just cool to see like your friends just living out their dreams, and like that's the coolest shit ever. So like, yeah, I got a little bit emotional too about it.
Yeah,
like,
didn't I say on stage like, oh, I'm
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah.
I remember I got like my first like big laugh, and I started like crying, and I was like, Sian, you can't start crying now. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, and it was such an honor to like bring him on, and then he roasted me. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say he brought you up a lot in the show. Like, not even like, you know, the first minute or so, but like, oh, how about my openers? Like, you were a bit of a callback, honestly. Like, he
talked about me for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Like, I remember that was another thing. Like, oh my God, like Sian's going to be freaking out right now. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was getting like so emotional. I was like crying. I was like, this is like when your favorite singer like writes a song about you. And
you say mean things about me. This is the best.
Yeah. I was like, oh. I was just like, I was just like emotional. I was like, oh my God. And it was really cool, you know. And like all I really wanted from that was to like open for him, shake his hand, you know. And I got way more than just that. Like I got all those roast jokes, and we kind of like, I was just like able to chat with him. Like he asked to like meet my mum after the show.
Yeah.
He was like, can your mum come back here? And my like mum went back there, and he like told her she was. He told my mum went back there, and she was like, "Hi, Doug. I don't know who you are." But Sian told me about what happened with your mother, and that you only got 1 hour's sleep last night, because I was just calling my mum, being like, "Doug only got an hour's sleep the other night," and she was like, "I hope your sleep's getting better." And then he told us she looked beautiful, which I thought was like really sweet and charming. And I'm. It's cool. I can't believe he asked to meet my mum. That's actually like, whoa, that's like such a sweet thing to do, you know?
Yeah. That's like...
That's very gentlemanly and very charming. Oh my God. Yeah.
So, and it's also like you got way more than like just... Like even... You would be so grateful even to just have open for him and be like, hi, bye kind of thing. And to to talk to him on such like a proper level and
like
do
joke
the
around with
podcast
him and do the
stuff.
podcast, and then have him all those shout outs he wrote about me on.
Yeah, he's been like writing about you on Twitter and stuff too, and like online on like a Reddit forum, right?
Yeah, and he wrote like just like crazy shit.
Yeah, because
We email each other. Like I text him on Twitter. Like I message him on Twitter.
it's crazy.
Like now we have like this like kind of like relationship, which I'm like worried about fucking up. But I'm also like, just be yourself, Sian. Just don't stress. Don't think too much about it. Like now I'm stressing like, oh, am I going to fuck up this like important relationship or whatever? But like I know what my intention is, and like I just have an appreciation for it, and it's just like a bit of a spin out. But I've kind of like gotten more comfortable now, like with the idea. For the first few weeks that it was all happening, I was like a bit like disassociative, and just like not like with it, like not prepared for that shit. Yeah.
And now, because I guess now a lot of people are discovering you because of Doug as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that's also happened, and like now I have like Patreons and like all that sort of shit that happened from like Doug shouting me out, which has been awesome. So now I feel like I'm in like this like new, like I don't know if I'm in like a new place though. I probably am. I'm not if I don't act. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like gonna start like my own podcast and stuff, and start doing hours. Like start really committing to like doing hours as often as I can, and aim to make it to the States somehow, and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So what's your podcast about?
Well, I haven't started it yet, but I just decided this.
What's
the
like
other
the
day.
ideas and stuff that you?
Well, because Doug said like Sian's uncancelable. So I'm just gonna call it like the uncancelable podcast. It'll just be a talking head of me, because I want to create my own kind of culty audience and that kind of thing. Like I think I'm just gonna do a cult thing, because like the corporate comedy industry isn't gonna take an interest in me right now anyway. There's nothing like if the most notifiable and prolific comedian of our time is like, this chick's good, and the industry, like the comedy industry still don't want a bar of me, then and that's fair. Like, you know, they probably understand whatever they're doing like way better than what I do. So like that's them, but I just have to go out and like just like not rely on them anymore, because they're not going to give it to me. They don't want to give it to me, which is fine. And like, so I just have to go do it on my own. So like now I've just kind of had like this huge like, oh my God, just like go do your own thing, Sian. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, I don't know, like if I'm going to do festivals anymore, or if I'm going to be bold and like go outside of festivals and outside of like all that kind of thing and do like my own stuff. But things is like a bit up in the air. But right now the plan would be just go book a bunch of hours in random pubs, do your podcast, and then build up a cult following that way slowly. Yeah.
So, now I'm editing out. No. So you've done... So tell us about your hour. Like it makes, actually, what I wanted to say was, I understand, like, especially with the online culture now, like it's so easy to just stray from the path. Like when Doug was doing it, it would have been like super risky.
Yeah, but man, like we can get a bit lost in the algorithm now. That's what I was thinking last night.
Yeah, there's a lot of comedy out there too.
Yeah, do you reckon maybe there's like too much on like social media?
Yeah, I don't. I think it's like it's one of. I guess
I remember when I started comedy, it was frowned upon to put your comedy online.
Yeah.
Like fucking never do that, bro. Fucking like that's so lame. And now it's done like all the time, you know.
What was the mentality?
But it's good. You got to surrender to that kind of stuff and like go with it instead of like fighting against it.
Yeah.
But like I'll never, like my jokes never really meet with the algorithm standards to not like get banned. So I can't even like really do it like an algorithm way either.
Yeah.
People just kind of got to know about me.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth.
Yeah.
So you just got to do that.
That seems super punk rock though. It's just like, yeah, I heard about this comedian. Like, she's not on the. You have to.
Well, I
like,
am on the socials,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just like she's not going to pop up on like your For You kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah, I've just kind of had this. I've had to like understand the industry a bit more like in the last. I'll probably just learn about it more in the next year, but just like just going a bit out of like the corporate comedy thing and working more on like doing like hours and stuff like that, and having like good hours and shit. Yeah.
With fuck.
But that might not work out either. Yeah. Like nothing might work out as well.
Yeah. So when did you start doing our shows? When was your
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
My first show was that Grub, a funny domestic violence story show. And then I did Western Girl, which you saw.
Yes.
Good chat.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I love doing hours now. I love them. I used to find them like really daunting, but like, I really love doing them now.
Yeah. So because with your first hour show, like the Grub, that you released Western Girl like a year late. Like you did it like a year later.
2 years later. Yeah.
2 years later.
Yeah, because COVID happened. Did COVID happen? Yeah. No, 2 years later. Well, I just needed time. I needed time. I needed time there. But yeah.
Yeah. So with your.
But there were some like jokes from like my old show that are like in Western Girl, which I'd kind of like that not to be the case, but and I could probably get away with filming it now and that not being the case, but not the one you saw at Good Chat, unfortunately. But so and also just like learning like your show can also like chat like you know like Western Girl's kind of like being like this show's about, like when I first wrote it, I'm like, this show is about being a meth addicted prostitute. But at that time when I wrote that show, all that sort of shit had just happened. So then like over like the year as things have like gotten better, like the show is kind of like changing as to what it's about, and it's not kind of fully about that anymore. And I've realized like since watching stand-up sets, it's like a stand-up show can be about a certain thing, a certain incident that happened in a comic's life or whatever.
Yeah.
But they might only talk about that for like the last 10 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that that's what your whole show has to be about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's also been... I need to go to the toilet.
That is absolutely fine. Yeah.
Wait. Where were we?
The
The truth is, I don't really know what I'm doing.
After 10 years.
I still don't know what I'm doing. And I also know that like you can get... And what's so great about that thing from Doug, and Doug saying like, you know, Sian Smyth is going to like if with any kind of backing, Sian Smyth could single-handedly, I may have memorized it, could single-handedly breaks down some heavy walls, shut some pretentious mouths, and change a lot of what is sort of as marketable. And she's not nearly as good as she will be. Like just having that on like a spiritual level is very validating and shit.
Yeah.
For me, like it's kind of like, oh, okay, like I don't want to stop working or anything, but it's like at least I kind of know that like I'm doing the right thing, you know. I was, you know, because I've taken like a number of risks, and like it was just like a very good, just like kind of like, oh, it's worth it to take all those risks and all that heartache that came with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it made me think about like what direction I want my career to go in now as well. So I've been thinking about that, and like way more seriously. But also being mindful that like, because I've seen so many comics like shouldn't do that. So many comics like get big breaks, you know, and then it can all get to your head, and you can get overwhelmed, and you can like get maybe overwhelmed and even self-obsessed about yourself and shit, and it can all just go to shit, and then you can just like live the rest of your life really bitter and in resentment, and that's the only thing that's ever happened is that you had like this like one good thing happen, you know, and then like you can kind of like comics can kind of get like depressed over time when nothing else has like really come from that. So I'm just trying to have like a spiritual connection with those words and still like do action and like, you know, start like a solo podcast, but also have no expectations and know that like everything could go horrifically wrong and that could be the last good thing that ever happens.
Yeah.
But that's the best good thing that could ever happen. You know what I mean? For like a comic.
Yeah.
Is having that said to you by Doug.
Well, the Stanhope thing, like, I think that, and it even goes back to what you said earlier, how you said how, like, it's incredible that you were writing and performing while you had all this other life stuff happening with the relationship and all those type of things, and you're still pushing through. And that was like a big portion of your comedy career, but now you're out of that, and like it's kind of like, what the fuck can you do now that like your life is so much better now, like you're unstoppable pretty much, like it's and like
I feel like I'm pretty stoppable. I believe in myself now, and like I think it would be a shame to like dishonor those words, but at the same time I don't want to put pressure on myself that I have to honor these words and all that kind of thing either. Like I got to just take it like one day at a time and just like gig, man, and fucking podcasts and gig and podcast. That's what you got to do, bro.
Yeah.
It's just that.
Just got to just keep doing stuff.
And then be nice to people. Being nice is good. But it's also good to be like rejected a bit at the start of your career as well, I think. But yeah, you learn all that stuff over time anyway, you know. Wait, where were we? What else were we talking about?
We were just talking about like the Doug thing and how he said, like, basically what Doug said was like, in like, you're not as good as you will be, and like it's crazy how like you're good now, but like you're gonna be in a level.
She's not nearly
later.
As good as she will be. I know.
Yeah. So like,
I know. And then I was like, what do you mean? I'm not good? no, that's not
crushing it.
No, that's not. I was like, what do you mean we're not nearly as good? I feel like I'm pretty good. No. Yeah. I know, but it's also like I can't think too, like, because like I can get doomsdayers and I can be like, maybe I'll never ever get better, but like,
yeah, I think
just like believe in myself and just like keep doing gigs and keep doing hours, bro. That's what I'm having to do now.
Yeah,
I have to do hours. You know, like I'll go like do perfect club sets, but it's like I need to be like working on hours as like commonly as possible and shit. So, and like a lot of stuff has just happened in like the last 2 weeks, so I haven't been working towards that. But it's like I have never at one point stopped ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I gigged after getting raped and then I went to hospital. I'm a hardcore gig fucking fanatic, you know. So I've taken like I've taken this week off, and I'll probably take next week off, and so I feel like I haven't been doing anything, but really actually I have been doing stuff. Because relaxing after 10 years is like actually doing something. So I'm like mentally prepared for like the next step. Yeah.
I think taking a break every night, like you're not going to be like, oh, why did I take that week break back in May in 2023? Like it's only going to benefit you just taking a break.
Yeah. And even learning when to take a breather. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if anything, I shouldn't have gigged after getting raped. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have at the same time. Maybe that was what. Yeah. So yeah, I've taken like the last 2 weeks off, but it's just like, yeah, you like you work out your own path. Like also I also want to be doing like good like 10-minute club sets, but I've kind of got like a good like 10-minute club set, but I'll make a better 10-minute club set and stuff like that. But I'm really like, yeah, I want to work on like doing hours. I just want to be a comedian, bro. Like, you know, and I don't think anyone's really going to give it to me. So I kind of got to work out how to do that on my own as like someone who's like got a fucking learning disability and like is like fucking like was in like special ed and shit. So it's like working out like that, all that business shit that I don't like really understand, but fucking, and like don't have any like corporate comedy backing with. But at the end of the day, like, it all just is what it is, and there's brilliant moments and terrible moments, hey? Like, there's brilliant moments of, like, insane great stuff that happened to comics, and then like insanely sad betrayal stuff that also happens. And like that's why I think like I've always considered like my friendships with comedians like really important, because at the end of the day that's just like what gets you through anything, and there's just like connection with others. So like having like connections with comedians who I've built like over time and like all that kind of thing is also like really important to me on my journey. You know? Yeah. So yeah, like a comedian got me out of DV, and a comedian also got me living clean and sober. You know, it's like, how many times have comedians saved my life? You know, so I'm really grateful for that side of it. Like the fucking community aspect side of it too, I think is like really fucking beautiful. Fuck, like I love, like there's bitchiness, but there's also a sense of community that is like really beautiful. And yeah, and it's good. And I'm also taking 2 weeks off because it's like I was doing a bunch of like really shit gigs. Like I bombed the worst I've ever bombed in my life on my 30th birthday. I actually forgot it was my 30th because of everything that was happening. But then
yeah, I messaged you. I was like, happy birthday. And then you're like, oh, fuck, I forgot it was my birthday.
I know. We were meant to go to the dinosaur museum. I got to sort that out.
Yeah,
but just
we
like,
got to do the dinosaur.
I just had to wait till like I literally disassociated. So I have to learn but that sort of shit isn't going to happen all the time. That Doug shit isn't going to happen like all the time. Yeah. So it's like, that's not going to happen all the time. So, but now I'm more mindful of like how I can kind of like react when because it just like, I just haven't known like where I am. So like, I've just been like, oh, actually like I genuinely didn't know. It must be like a trauma thing. Cause like I've experienced trauma. So like, I don't know, maybe it was just like a lot of like excitement and like happiness and emotions and like stuff kind of like all brought up at once, and I just kind of like disassociated. I like went to like, and I got like way too in my head, and I've just been doing like the worst gigs ever. Like I fucking on my birthday, I remember like this is just like what comedy is, bro. Like I remember I got a message from Doug being like, call me next week, like on my birthday. And then like a bunch of messages from like Doug's friends being like, happy birthday and stuff. And then I was just like, oh my God, like Doug Stanhope's fucking friends are messaging me happy birthday. And then I just like, I just bomb in front of like 100 people, like the worst I've ever, like I fucking bombed. I've never bombed like this. Like this was a fucking putrid slut get off stage bomb, you know, like fucking, and I didn't handle it well either, bro. I did not handle it well. Like I fucking, I got a "you're not funny" from the back of the room, like "you're not funny," and then no one clapped when I got off.
Oh fuck.
And then some girl was like, I fucking hated that bitch and shit. Like, and it was just like, this is so funny because this is like my 30th birthday party. The morning is spent talking to like this prolific comedian, and then like his friends wishing me a happy birthday. And then that night I go and bomb the most horrifically I've ever bombed in my fucking life, and like don't handle it well. And it's just like, that's comedy, man.
Yeah, that's
comedy.
And lows
like
of comedy.
I got that call out from Stanhope. And at the same time, like I remember I messaged an open mic that night, and they were like, "No, we can't put you on." And I was like, "This is comedy, baby. This is comedy." You know what I mean? Like, yeah you still got to work and shit. But it also made me be like, okay, Sean, maybe like, yeah, just think about like your next moves as well a bit more. Yeah. But yeah, it's good. I'm happy it happened when I was sober, though. All of this, you know, because I don't know how I would have reacted if I'd been using. Because I did, I think I reacted like the best I could. It just wigged me, especially when he, when Doug retweeted my nude. I put a nude on Twitter.
Yeah, okay.
I put a nude on Twitter. I know it was pretty slutty of me, but this is what happens when I like disassociate or get too excited. I also get like super horny, and I like put like a nude up on Twitter. And I wanted Doug to see it, but I like couldn't like send it to him. So I just like put it on Twitter. And I was like, I just wanted to see it. And it was just like me like on the beach without a shirt on. And then he just like retweeted it.
Retweeted any caption?
Yeah. He made a comment about how my nipples were hard because it was cold. And then I was like, oh my God, like, yes, I love this. Like, I just want to see it. And then he just like retweeted it. Retweeted any caption? Yeah. He made a comment about how my nipples were hard because it was cold. And then I was like, oh my God, like, yes, I love this. Like, I just want to see it. And then he just like retweeted it.
So
And I was
living
like,
the comedy
I was
dream.
like, you fucking baller cunt. Like, that fucking, oh my God. That for my disassociation was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, that's, like that. I reckon that's such a baller move to fucking see that, be like, oh, this bitch fucking wanted me to see that. And then be like, oh, you're such an exhibitionist, retweet. Because I like did not think he'd retweet that. You know? And it was pretty funny. Ended up deleting it though, because like people were making mean comments about me. And they thought he was like, oh, I'm deleting this because like fucking I can't believe people think I'm making like mean comments about you and think I'm being serious. And I was just like, I don't care about like what any of them are saying. Like the fact that you just did that is like the hottest thing that's ever happened in my life. It was the hottest thing that ever happened in my life. That, like, I could not believe that is like, that like blew my mind. And I don't know, I think that might have been the highlight of my career, was when Jared tweeted my nude. Like no, but like that was the highlight of my sexual awakening, I guess. Like there was one other like I remember that I was fucking this Doug fan for a while, and he was like an ex-meth head, and he loved Doug. That was how he hit on me. He like gave me Doug's book, Digging Up Mother, and he's like, "Have you read this?" And I was like, "Yes, I've read it." Anyway, and I thought like the hottest experience I ever had was the first time he fucked me. He like fisted my pussy and spat on my asshole. And I was like, no one's ever gonna be able to outdo that. Like that's fucking the first time you fuck a bitch doing that, like you confident cunt. Like that's fucking, you know, that's some primal shit that's like telling the woman like, I will protect you from the lion if I have the confidence to fucking fist your pussy and spit it in your asshole, you know? And yeah, I never thought anything would outdo it, but Doug retweeting that nude outdid that. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to get off my chest.
Yeah, that's why you come on the show. Yeah, just to primarily talk about that. I just love the contrast of like how like wild this episode is compared to like it's just like the past episodes. Like yeah, like all this like wholesome. I just love comedy. I just love doing it. Just like yeah, fisting. But
I do love comedy. Yeah.
So with the hour show, so you said you wanted.
Oh yeah,
to
we were talking about the hour.
Yeah, we're talking about our shows.
We weren't talking about Doug retweeting my nude and that guy fisting my pussy. Yeah, we weren't talking about him. Sorry, got distracted. Way off.
So with the hour, you said you want to do more hour shows. Is that doing your current show more regularly, or do you want to like? How often are you wanting to write new hour shows? Is that like usually it's like a yearly thing,
I don't know,
right?
because I've heard like Carlin like wrote like a new hour like every year. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, do I want to risk my hours being shit like every year by writing like a new one? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. This is like the new phase, so I don't know how that's going to develop. Yeah. Whether that's going to be doing like the same show or like the same name changed a bit, or like, but I don't know if I'd be able to work. Like, I don't know. We're going to have to see. I don't know. We're going to have to see how I go with, like, repeating a show over and over and over again. Yeah. But I think they can change. Like, I think they can change. You can do whatever you want because it's your show. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know? So, like, yeah, it's just weird because, like, my comedy, like, I feel like Western Girl that I did at Good Chat that you saw was, like, way different. Yeah. Way different to the one I just did at the comedy festival.
Yeah, how was doing the comedy festival?
It was good. It was good. It made me realize that I shouldn't do festivals anymore.
Why is that?
Because the festival. Well, first off, they gave me a 9:30 time slot on a weekday. They didn't help me with anything. So I don't know why I have they didn't give me any gigs like coming up at the venues prior, and they just like didn't do much to like promote it, which is fine. Like that's fine. That's fine because they don't have an investment in me. I do not have an issue with that. But it's just like, oh, I don't know why I'm doing festivals when these guys aren't backing me anyway. And just do it outside of the festival. I don't know why. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I would have still got the same numbers because I'm getting those numbers myself. They're not getting them for me. Yeah. So I'm getting those numbers myself. So I should just do it out of the festival. And then the festival don't get any money.
And it probably would benefit you too. Like,
Yeah, it would benefit me.
With less stuff being
Hopefully. It might be a bit harder. Like, it might be... I might be fucking rudely surprised at how hard it is. You know? But I might not be. So, I might go back to doing festivals again. I might not. It's all just like... But it's like... I kind of got to, like, experience that. Because, like, what Shane Hunter told me is, like, no hack. He said, you know, we have hack... We're so anti having hack jokes... But we have hack business models.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Like, we're just like, oh, go do festivals. Go do a bunch of festivals.
Yeah, I guess we do kind of get caught in the, oh, well, this is what everyone else is doing. So, like, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's not. There's other ways to do it, you know? And shit's changing as well.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. So, you have a special out too, hey? Which was the first recording of your show. And was it the first? Well, it was the first night of your show, and you've said it's like, what was the? Because usually a lot of people, like, when they do specials, it's like they've done the show, they've done a full, maybe like a full run, like a year or so. I guess like what. I just think it's really interesting that you decided to like put it out there, like just as like the first night.
Oh, Shane just decided to do that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, cool. And I guess now, like, it is, and you have, like, footage now, like, you can see how the show's different.
It's good that that's there anyway, because it got us Patreons, and it got, it means that it means that, like, people in America who, like, really want to see it can, like, see it on Patreon now, too.
Yeah,
because it's still a good show. It's different
absolutely.
to what it was before. But
yeah.
I would say it's nearly a completely different show.
Yeah. Yeah, I just meant more like it's interesting because I like a lot of like, so I guess it's like that business model.
I feel weird.
Thing, yeah.
I feel weird touring with the show that's already on Patreon. Like, I feel weird about that. But it's because we didn't really like, we honestly, none of that was really thought through. Yeah, none of that was really thought through. But whatever.
Yeah, well, you're right with, like, you're building an audience in America anyway, so at least they can see it too.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, so it's worth it to do it. And then we got Patreons through it, you know. So that's really cool as well.
Yeah, sweet. So do you have anything else? So we're going to start the
Uncancelable podcast. I'm not sure when this podcast will be going out, so I'm doing that on Thursday.
Thursday. This one comes out Wednesday.
Yeah. So that's just follow me on socials and you'll get all the updates. I'm doing like a new show at Good Chat soon, because I'm getting ready to do I want to do my new hour, which is like I'll Still Love You in the Morning, which I think that's what I'm going to call it. We'll see what direction it goes in. I got to stop like giving myself this is what the show's about, because then like if I tour it around, like, it could change what it's about as well. Yeah. So yeah, but I'm gonna do the next one, like I'll Still Love You in the Morning. I fucking love naming shows.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's good. Because Doug said, like, the day after he met me, he messaged, like, his manager messaged me being like, oh, Doug told me to tell Sian he still loves her in the morning. So then, and I thought, like, I'll Still Love You in the Morning is like a good wrap up for like everything that I kind of like experienced in like the last few years of comedy anyway, like with a DV relationship and with everything that I've learned about like connection and how connection is the opposite of addiction and all that sort of stuff. Like all you really need at the end of the day is someone who still loves you in the morning. Right? Yeah. And doing things that make you still loved in the morning. Yeah. So where can people find you? Yeah, so just find me on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, or just Google me and see where I'm doing a show. Do whatever. Yeah, and support this podcast. And please, no. Yeah. But and then you have specials on. You have your special on Patreon, and then you also have one on YouTube. And I also have one on YouTube, which is Grub. Yeah. And just like I don't think we actually described like what are both shows about briefly. So Grub is a funny domestic violence story, and that show was written in a DV refuge 8 weeks out of leaving a DV relationship, and it was like a purge of like the last couple of years of my life that of stuff that had been going on. And Grub, so that's Grub, a funny domestic violence story, and Western Girl is about the aftermath of DV and the steps I took to recover from that shit, and about how my life got astronomically worse. Well, astronomically better at the same time. I still feel like smoking meth in a brothel, getting fucked by like random men is like way better than having a boyfriend that beats you 10 times nothing. You know what I mean? But still wasn't great. So, that's it. Yeah, and that's that. And Western Girl can be found on Patreon. So just Google my name on Patreon or however that works. I don't know. Yeah. Link in bio. Yeah. And then, and that's what, sorry. So your question was?
Oh, just what both shows were about.
Oh yeah. So Grub's about that and Western Girl's about the aftermath of that. And and then we're going to start on I'll Still Love You in the Morning, and we'll see whatever the hell that's about. But I just think that's a good wrap up of everything. At the end of the day, in the poetic sense, you know? Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for coming on, Sian. Appreciate it.
Cool.